Korach. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah, to be engaged in the study of Torah. So this week we've been studying the disintegration of the moral character of the Israelites from week to week. And it finally gets to its, apex, the top of, I think, because I was looking after this, they still are kvetchers, but not on the same level of rebellion after this very cataclysmic experience of Korach. And we're going to look at the text, but I noticed something very interesting. Korach, his name is spelled Korach, is pronounced Korach, is a leader and a prince, actually, who leads a rebellion against Moses. But the same Hebrew letters, because, Hebrew doesn't have vowels in the Torah, spells Korach, which means ice. It means ice. So this man is, we could say, cold as ice. He's frozen and he's not caring or indifferent, no matter what he says about others. He's very ambitious. And he's sort of held as the ultimate arch villain, among the Israelites. I mean, not enemies. And also, so there's some noise somewhere from someplace. Okay. Arch villain, and also the symbol of divisiveness, of creating conflict and division within the people, which, there's a lot of, I wrote my Shabbat message for this week. I also have the Shabbat message, and I saw a lot of parallels between what's going on today, and this story. So I want to share the screen because I think there's a lot of levels to what's going on. And so it goes into the mystical and magic. This story is about magic and things against nature. I mean, things happen now. I mean, the worst we've had in terms of afflictions is plagues. God keeps giving people plagues when he's upset. But here it's like supernatural cataclysms are happening. And we don't have to take it literally, but metaphorically, it's like things are so bad that normal punishments don't even seem to impress people anymore, or they're not working. So let's look at the text. I want to share my screen. Okay, share. And where is everybody when I share? Okay, hold on. Let's go here. Let me get everybody in the thing and move it down. And okay. I know a lot more people are watching, but for some reason you don't want to show yourself. I don't know why. Maybe you don't have your makeup on. I mean, people keep ringing the bell and coming in, but they're not showing themselves. Okay. So this is a rebellion, and we could call it an insurrection against the leaders of the community.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. And it's not from,
Hello? Hi.
okay, Natalie, okay. It's not from the people this time, it's from the leaders. It's from the elected elite leaders who have decided to rebel or have been rallied to rebel against Moses and Aaron by Korach, and we'll see who Korach is. So would somebody like to read the first paragraph? Somebody like to read? Okay, Jeff. You're muted. Jeff, you're muted.
Now Korach, the son of Ishar, the son of Kohath, the son of Levi, with Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and On, the son of Peleth, sons of Reuben, rose up against Moses, together with 250 Israelites, chieftains of the community, chosen in the assembly, men of repute.
Okay, so let's just stop. First of all, Korach is from what tribe?
Levi.
Okay, and where are Moses and Aaron from? Anybody know what tribe?
Levi.
Levi. They're cousins. They're cousins. So that's number one. And apparently, according to commentary, Kohat, the Kohati family, was a very prominent, wealthy, well-known family in the community. The Kohatis, the son of Kohat. So the Kohatis were very well known, and they say Korach was very respected and known and a leader. And he combines with Datan and Aviram, who are the sons of Reuben. And so if you look, sons of Eliab and On, the son of Pelet, sons of Reuben. Now, who was Reuben in the, what do you call it? The sibling order. Does anybody know?
Firstborn.
He was the firstborn. So these are people who consider themselves, of the elite. We're the sons of the firstborn, Reuben, so that gives us status. And Korach, who's a Levite. And the Levites, we know, were also considered having a lot of status because they're the ones that tended to the tabernacle and the sacrifices, and they're the Kohen Gadol, the grand priest, high priest, is Aaron, who's also from the Levites. So, wow, a lot of people coming in. That's nice. Okay, continue, Jeff. They combined
Against Moses and Aaron and said to them, "You take too much upon yourselves, for all the congregation is holy, every one of them, and the Lord is among them. Why then do you raise yourselves above the congregation of the Lord?"
So what are they saying? What are they saying, actually? What are they accusing Moses and Aaron of?
Usurping status and power.
And what's their understanding of why they're usurping? I mean, what are they saying about? Go ahead.
They consider themselves above and beyond and more equal than everyone else.
Okay, Lorraine, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say that they feel that they're equal because God has spoken to everybody. So like they have presented himself to everybody. So everybody has seen the cloud and everybody has seen the manifestation of God. So they feel like they're holy as well. So.
Okay, so do you think that's a valid argument? Is that a valid argument? What do you think? There's no right or wrong. It's your opinion. Do you think it's a valid argument that why do you think you're better than us? We're all holy and you think you're raising yourself above us. Is that valid?
That is human emotions.
Okay, but is it a valid argument? Is it like, are they right?
Yes.
Are they right?
Yes.
Who says?
In a sense, I don't think that they're right because every group needs a leader.
Okay. All right. That's a point. And according to one of the commentaries, it says the congregation is holy. I think it's Rashi or one of the other, classical commentators says, no, we're commanded to be holy. We have the potential to be holy, but we're not born holy. We're not just holy because of who we are. We have to behave in a certain way. And the whole Parshat of Kedoshim, which is you shall be holy, tells us exactly how to behave in a holy manner. So for them to say, well, we're all the same, we're all holy, there's an implication that we don't have to do anything to earn or claim holiness, as opposed to earning it and, acting in a holy way. So that was like an intricate thing. And actually, do you think these 250 chieftains and Korach and Datan and Aviram really think all the people are equal and all the people are holy? Do you really think that's what they were really saying? Merle.
No, I think that they want to be themselves. They think they're better. So they want to push everybody else out of the way to prove that I'm better than you are.
Right. And Korach, they call him a demagogue. There's something charismatic and entrancing about him and the way he talks that he got these leaders who are elected. You know what I mean? We have to look at that. It says chosen in the assembly. These are like, I want to say, the Senate and the House of Representatives of the people. And he got 250 of them to rebel against the leaders and say, you know, who do you think you are? You can't tell us what to do. We're as good as you are, and we're not good. We don't respect you. Okay, so now how did Moses react? Who wants to read the next paragraph? Somebody, come on. You're all good readers.
I will.
Okay, Penina.
Then Moses heard this. He fell on his face, and he spoke to Korach and all his company, saying, tomorrow morning the Lord will show who is his and who is holy, and will cause him to come near to him. That one whom he chooses, he will cause to come near to him. Do this, take fire pans, Korach and all your company, put fire in them, and put incense in them before the Lord tomorrow. And it shall be that the man whom the Lord chooses is the Holy One. You take too much upon yourselves, you sons of Levi.
Okay, so
So,
I think it's interesting. What is Moses' response? Because we've heard him in other situations where I feel like, to me,
Yeah.
he's responding differently than his usual response.
it's like Esau and Jacob. Not Esau and Jacob, sorry, Cain and Hevel. Cain also told, Hevel said, we're going to bring the offering in front of God. Let's see who he chooses. That's the one who is going to be the one that God loves most.
Okay, but is this typical of Moses in his usual response to the people? Susan, or like you're shaking your head no?
Oh, no, he's setting up a challenge here. I don't know that he's done that before. A challenge, like it comes later with Elijah and the prophets of Baal, in the sense that a challenge and a competition. Now they had that with Pharaoh, but that was before, and that was Aaron as well. So no, falling on his face seems to be a typical response, but it's to God. And this doesn't seem to be typical, the challenge thing.
Well, I agree with you. And I also think usually Moses, when they asked for meat, he felt upset that he couldn't give them meat. You know, when he sent them out, he was upset. He didn't understand. But it's like he's fed up. I can't even talk to you anymore. Let God show you. You know, he's on his last nerve with these people. It's like yeah, okay, fine. I'm not arguing with you. I'm not pleading with you. I'm not discussing. I'm not placating. Show up tomorrow and we'll see who God chooses. So there's some defiance, exasperation, exhaustion at this point.
Right.
Yes, Lorraine.
I have a question about the type of challenge that he presents, because this incense offering already resulted in a bad outcome for other individuals before. And he selected that same action. And I don't know, like it was like, I don't, excuse me for saying this, but it almost seems like, well, you know, I'm just going to throw you into the lions and then just see if you actually make it out of there. And
it's like a setup, right? A setup. It looks like a setup.
Exactly. And he did it. It doesn't appear over there in the commentary. It says that he must have received instruction from God to do this, that he wouldn't do it on his own, but it doesn't say it in the scriptures. I don't know any other part where that there's a reference to that, but I don't know. I have questions about the specific challenge that was presented here. I don't know if anybody has some thoughts about that.
Well, I just want to add, and then I'm going to hear from Pina, that the last time it was Aaron's sons but they did it on their own. And it was considered illegitimate. They just went on their own and decided they were going to do something. Now, perhaps Moses is saying, well, if you think you're holy, then you go and do what what the priests are supposed to do, and offer your fire pan to God, and we'll see. So, but you're right. But on another level, maybe Moses, he falls on his face and he goes, well, maybe he's hearing it too. I mean, Moses is so sensitive and so humble in a way. And so like, maybe even though he's exasperated and fed up, it's like, well, I don't know, maybe you're right. I mean, it's possible to feel confident and also have doubts and say, well, oh, okay, I give up. Yeah, okay, Penina and then Merle.
You are right at that point, that what you said that in the last sentences. I think he's so tired that at that point he himself decides that let God decides. And his faith in God is really strong. He thinks that according to the discussion that he has with God, that he's still the chosen one. But he is tired. And the whole idea of competition rousing when somebody is in a weak moment, you could see it today when two presidents are about to go into debates. It's the same thing. Korach sees weakness, so he thinks he's going to try. Moses is tired, so he figured, okay, God is still with him, so let's see if he continues to be with him. But
okay, I like that. Merle.
It's very human that at one point he recognizes that he's tired, and he said it so before, and he decides, okay, let's the best man win according to God. And that's it.
Good. Merle.
Pretty much what Penina said. He's so fed up with so many people bitching and moaning and complaining and expecting him to do better than what he's doing and what they want for him, that he's just saying, I mean, it happens to all of us in professional lives. He's just saying, okay, if you can do it better, just you do it and I'll bow out here. And
and he goes, you take too much upon yourselves, you sons of Levi. And then he says this to Korach, even though he says he's addressing the sons of Levi. And then it's like, furthermore, the more he thinks about it, the more incredulous he is. And then we really hear what their agenda is. So who would like to read the next paragraph?
I will.
Okay, Phyllis.
Then Moses said to Korah, Hear now, you sons of Levi. Is it a small thing to you that the God of Israel has separated you from the congregation of Israel to bring you near to himself, to do the work of the tabernacle of the Lord, and to stand before the congregation to serve them? And that he has brought you near to himself, you and all your brethren, the sons of Levi, with you.
So what's he saying? How is it not enough that you are Levites, that you are the special ones already, it's like you are already the leaders, you have access to the tabernacle, you do the sacrifices, which makes you closer to God than, the regular people, because you're the ones running the whole thing. Isn't that enough? And then continue, Phyllis.
And are you seeking the priesthood also? Therefore, you and all your company are gathered together against the Lord. And what is Aaron that you complain against him?
Okay, so what can you intuit or figure out what Korach really wants? Can anybody figure that out? What does Korach really want?
He wants to be the leader.
But what? In what way does he want to?
Both ways.
What job?
And the everyday things that they do.
What job does he want?
Priesthood.
He wants not just the priesthood. Who is Aaron?
Going the door.
High priest.
The high priest. He wants to be the high priest. That's what this implies. And what is Aaron that you complain against him? So, and meanwhile, Aaron doesn't say a word. He's like, oh my God. And Aaron is completely mute in this, and he does take action later, but he's just like, because they're basically saying Korach wants to be the high priest. he wants to be number one, you know, in connection and have the most power, the most glory, the most prestige of everything. That is what is really going on according to this Torah portion. And wait a minute. Okay. So and then I'm just going to move this over. And Moses sent a call to Datan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and then he called them. Apparently, they said, we're not coming. Come over here. I want to talk to you too. We will not come up. And listen to this. And this is, I want to understand what you get out of this. Is it a small thing? Hold on, I have to move you. That you have brought us up out of a land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness, that you should keep acting like a prince over us? What are they calling a land flowing with milk and honey?
The one that they said before that's full of giants.
No.
No, Egypt.
Oh, Egypt.
Egypt. How twisted is reality,
right,
in their minds, that now Egypt is the land flowing with milk and honey.
right.
They have completely twisted reality. Is all I can say. They are not even seeing, and they're putting out this propaganda that Egypt was a land of milk and honey. That and they've said before, you took us where we had food and it was so great. What is that about human nature? We talk about the good old days. I mean, it's like unbelievable. And then they say, moreover, you've not brought us into a land flowing with milk and honey, nor given us inheritance of fields and vineyards. Will you put out the eyes of these men? We will not come up. And the commentaries say, put out the eyes of these men means, will you pull the wool over their eyes? Will you dupe them? So they're saying, you took us out of a great place and you're not taking us to a land of milk and honey. Why are they not being taken? We learned it last week. Why are they not going?
We weren't ready.
Because, you know, they believed the scouts and were afraid to go in. And now that God said, fine, you're staying here for 40 years and your children will go in, but you won't. So what is the behavior of these leaders? Which seems to me very familiar, I have to say, to what's going on right now. I got to be honest.
I was going to say, I realized this was written thousands of years ago, but it sounds more than familiar, just in a different land, in a more progressive land. And these people are just so ungrateful about anything that they'll do anything they can to push people out to get what they want.
Yes, that's true. Any other comments about you know what's happening here? Talk about fake news, talk about propaganda, talk about denying reality, talking about pretending that nothing happened and that we're just, you know, innocent bystanders, and we don't even acknowledge that last week everybody was so up in arms about the lies about the scouts that they were going to kill Caleb and Joshua. Forget that. Never happened. It never happened. It's all your fault. You took us out of not a land of slavery, degradation, and horror, where they were throwing our babies into the Nile River to kill them. It was a land flowing with milk and honey. And I mean, this is biblical. Biblical Fox News.
It is.
I mean, or let's put it this way, alternative reality. It's QAnon. It's crazy. They are like completely twisting and turning things. And Moses, you took all our power and we're as good as you are. And it's completely, you know, over the top. And then Moses is very angry and says to the Lord, do not respect their offering. I have not taken one donkey for them, nor have I hurt one of them. Okay, Lorraine, now you're right. He's setting them up. Because he's saying, don't accept their fire pans. He's saying it right there. And so Moses, what's happening to Moses? as we watch him since the burning bush till now, from the burning bush to the burning fire pans, what's happened to Moses, can you say? If he were going to therapy, what would his diagnosis be? What happened to Moses here? What has happened to him over these years?
He's falling apart.
He's falling apart. He's become angry.
He needs the therapy really badly.
Maybe he accepted who he is now. Like he instead of saying like, why me? Or, now he's like, well, God chose me, and now he's mad. He's accepting himself.
But he's also, how ungrateful are these people? How much has he given them and done for them? And, and we're going to see actually, even here, and this is what makes Moses so great. He's human. He's understandably angry and frustrated and hurt, but in a few minutes, he's going to protect the people again, because he's got a very deep well of compassion and maybe understanding of human beings. Okay, so let's continue this drama. Who would like to read? How about Susan Ehrlich? Will you read?
Sure. I was going to say also, when you asked about the transformation of Moses, he's accepted his position. When you said since the
What
birth,
Jody said, yeah.
it hasn't been, why me? I can't talk, and I don't want to go before. He's accepted it and rose to the occasion, so much so that he's willing and able and strong enough to challenge the challengers and also to set them up, as Lorraine said.
Yeah, but I don't think he expected what God was going to do.
No, he didn't. And then he intercedes again to try and protect the people, even these, these rebellious ones. So, and Moses said to Korah, tomorrow you and all your company be present before the Lord, you and they, as well as Aaron. Let each take his fire pan and put incense in it. And each of you bring his fire pan before the Lord, 250 fire pans. Both you and Aaron, each with his fire pan.
So I just want to point out that he's pitting Aaron against Korach, you and Aaron, like high priest. Who's going to be the high priest is kind of what's happening as well. Continue.
Yeah, that's very good. And then also goes back to Aaron's sons Nadab and Abihu, who did, as Lorraine said, who did precisely this. And they were Aaron's substitutes.
Right.
So every man took his fire pan, put fire in it, laid incense on it, and stood at the door of the tabernacle of meeting with Moses and Aaron. And Korah gathered all the congregation against them at the door of the tabernacle of meeting. Then the presence of the Lord appeared to all the congregation.
Okay, continue this next part.
And the Lord, and with the presence, the Hebrews down here, is that the kavod?
Yeah, the kavod. Some translation is the glory, but the JPS is the presence of the Lord. I guess kavod. Yeah, the divine presence, the whatever that is, the power, the kavod. Yeah.
And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment.
So, all right, you move back. I'm burning them. That's it. They're going. And it's not just the Korach and the 250, because all the congregation against them. So we don't know how many that is, the 250 or others. I mean, who knows what rallying amount of people, how many people he's rallied now to show up to see the spectacle. I mean, I would show up. I would be curious. If like it's a standoff, Moses and Korach and the fire pans and what's going to happen. So, kind of reminds me of, in a horrible way, when that tsunami hit Indonesia and people sort of saw it coming and they didn't know what it was. And they just stood there as the wave came. And it's kind of like everybody's standing there waiting to see what's going to happen, having no idea what's going to happen. And then God says, what? Move away, guys. I'm going to kill them.
Yeah.
So
separate yourself from them. Stay away.
All right. So let's talk about God. What's going on with God at this point in this story? Where is God in terms of? This is all in my Shabbat message, but I mean, how many things can I do in one weekend to teach? So that's all sort of together. Last week, God was very hurt and bewildered even. God says, how long will these people spurn me? I mean, after I've shown them all these wonders, how long is this going to go on? This is so insulting and hurtful, and I don't understand them. And this week, what's God saying? What's the first thing God says to?
He's going to get rid of them. It's enough.
And in the past, God said, all right, let me start over with you. And Moses said, no, you can't do that. You can't wipe them out. It's not right. Now God's like, I'm done. So
I would say it's aggravation.
It is aggravation and lack of, they say there are two main aspects of God: justice, the judge, and the compassionate one, the forgiver. And even in the Kabbalah, there's Gevura and Chesed, which is the strength on one side, and Chesed, which is loving kindness on the other. And if you go too far, there's supposed to be a balance. If you're too strong, it's destructive. If you're too full of compassion, you're weak and people exploit you. And it's like God is all in Gevura here. He's all in strength and judgment, the judge. And the merciful part is not present at the moment. And what happened to, and here Moses and Aaron say something so poignant. So who would like to read that part? Jody, do you want to read? Verse 22.
And they fell on their faces and said, O God, the God of the spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin and you be angry with all the congregation?
Okay, so what is he saying? What are they saying?
Just because one man did something bad, you don't need to kill everybody.
And who does this remind us of in the book of Genesis?
And Sodom and Gomorrah.
Exactly. Abraham with Sodom and Gomorrah, where God was going to wipe out Sodom and Gomorrah. And Moses said, if there are 50 good men, if there are 45 good men, will you? And he bargains God. So God, I love the Torah's depiction of God. I've said this before, like the more conscious we become, and we can see it in our Jewish texts, the more God evolves, the more complex, the more we understand God in multiple ways. But in the Torah, God is very anthropomorphic, but God can be reasoned with. God listens to human beings. When human beings say that's wrong, or how can you do that? God hears, which is a fascinating idea that we can appeal to God and God could change, that we have the power to change God, and we have the power to change situations. And sometimes it's just by having compassion for others that we can change a situation. Is kind of on the Hasidic level that we could look at this, because the Hasidic level is, and the spiritual level is always underneath all of this stuff. So God says, continue, Jody. The Lord says, 23.
So the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the congregation, saying, get away from the tents of Korah, Datan, and Abiram.
Okay. Move back, people. Move back. Something bad's going to happen. And so, okay, continue, Jody, a little more.
Then Moses, it's moving. Then Moses rose and went to Datan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. And he spoke to the congregation, saying, depart now from the tents of these wicked men.
Hold on, I'm going to move this. It says, touch nothing.
Touch nothing of theirs, lest you be consumed in all their sins. So they got away from around the tents of Korah, Datan, and Abiram, And Datan and Abiram came out and stood at the door of their tents with their wives, their sons, and their little children.
So what's interesting is Moses goes over there and it says the elders followed him to see what was happening. You know what I mean? And he says, move back from them, move back from them. So something bad. And this is so dramatic and shocking. I mean, the story that it impresses the Israelites like nothing before. So Pamela, would you like to read? 28.
I will read. And Moses said, by this you shall know that the Lord has sent me to do all these works, for I have not done them of my own will. Keep going.
Yeah, do the whole paragraph.
Okay. If these men die naturally like all men, or if they are visited by the common fate of all men, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord creates a new thing, and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them up with all that belongs to them, and they go down alive into the pit, then you will understand that these men have rejected the Lord.
Oh my God, this is like a horror movie.
This is like classic hellfire and brimstone stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is hellfire and brimstone. If the earth opens up and swallows you, then you'll know that they're wrong and that God has chosen me. So, okay, what happens? It's pretty awful. And we're going to talk about how we feel about this. Who would like to read? Natalie, you want to read?
Scarcely 31.
No, 31. Now it came to pass. Oh, you have a different translation?
I have a little bit of a
That's fine.
but it's the same.
Yeah, read your own.
Scarcely had he finished speaking all these words when the ground under them burst asunder, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up with their households, all Korah's people and all their possessions. They went down alive into Sheol with all that belonged to them. The earth closed over them, and they vanished from the midst of the congregation. All Israel around them fled at their shrieks, and they said, the earth might swallow us. And a fire went forth from the Lord and consumed the 250 men offering the incense.
Okay.
Well, this is such a crazy story.
It's a crazy story. It's really violent.
Because I see it from the other side. If you want to know what I think,
I do.
Maybe I'll compare this, let's say, to someone who's sick, and they go to the doctor, and the doctor says, I can fix you with this operation, and in 2 months, you're going to feel terrific. This I promise you. I equate that to they all went, they're not feeling well now. They've been dragged through that desert, and they are really at their wits' end when the spies finally go out and look to see the promised land. And then you have this operation, and 2 months, you're not better. You're not better for 2 years or 3 years. And then you get really mad because these people felt they were promised something, promised a land of honey, promised it was going to be wonderful. And there they know that if they go into this land, they're going to be murdered by these giants. They're going to be devoured by the giants. And they don't really know, they can't touch God, they can't feel God. And there's still people from Egypt who are not really believing in all this. So I sort of see it that way as well, that I can see how people could get a leader and want to get a congregation, a group that's going to fight for not going into the land. And I don't know if anybody else agrees with me, but I can see it from the other point of view.
They want to change doctors.
They want to change the doctor. You know, with anything that's promised to you, I just use that as an example. Anything that's promised to you, and then you don't get it, it doesn't come out that way. It's only human nature that you're disturbed, you're angry. And if you have a leader who's going to dwell on that and perhaps become more powerful in his own right, we're talking about humans. And so I can see how this could have happened.
Yeah, I
don't.
I mean, I think, you know, some of the stuff in the Torah, and then I'll call on you, Nina. Some of the stuff in the Torah is really inspired and beautiful. Some of the teachings, and some of it is really of its time, of its ancient. I mean, it's like the Torah is an amalgam, in my opinion, of kind of holiness and mundane. And some of these stories are of
unbelievable
the ancient world. I mean, this could be Zeus. You know, we read about the Greek gods or the Roman gods or the Babylonian gods, and that's what they did. You know, you listened or you got it, you know, and there was this fear was a huge impetus for trying to get people to behave properly because their impulses or their instincts were not. You know, I've said this a million times, when you see the thou shalt not, the only thing in the Torah, they always tell you not to do things because people are doing them. People are killing, people are stealing, people are committing adultery. They don't tell you not to do things that nobody's doing, not that people are not doing. So you're right. I think this is a very like ancient, Near East, you know, ancient world story about also saying there were so many warnings and so many pleading, so much pleading and so much reasoning and so much asking and so much giving, and they, very immature, very traumatized people, just couldn't get their balance. And is also kind of saying, if you keep going down a self-destructive path or a destructive path, ultimately you're going to be consumed by your own bad behavior. We can look at it as a metaphor, not God doing it, but they themselves were consumed by their own ambition, hatred, jealousy, rivalry, or whatever. The question I always have when I read this is, why the children? You know what I mean? Why the children? Why the women? Why the house slaves or whatever? Okay, Penina and then Lorraine.
Okay, many times during their travels, we, at least twice, they are being called to count the men.
Right.
And the men come forward. And the reason was not because they were heads of family necessarily. It's because the men were supposed to fight.
Right.
So there was a preparation for human strength. So, but it was combined also with the belief in God. And here the priest, he wants to be a high priest. So that's totally spiritual. There isn't any leadership in strength here as far as an army, because they were attacked through their travels, and specifically when the first land came in. Moses already is kind of like, yes, he's tired, but the preparation for confrontation with other people, with other nations, he was already prepared for it. And I think the fact that they were kept counting the men, that was preparation to create an army. So here comes a guy, Korach, that only thinks that by being the priest that enough. Moses that knows that it's not enough. And he's still a leader. So, and the fact that he knows, they use the same words to describe Egypt the way the spies describe the land of Israel, the land of milk and honey. So they are
not prepared at all.
They're talking off of their heads. There is no reality.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think Moses is a lot more realistic, and he knows that they need both.
Okay.
So that's why he decided, how can he prove it? Well, every time he talks to God and God came through for him, well, let's try it again. And it happened. It's like,
Okay.
Yeah.
I hear you. I hear that you're saying that, but we today in 21st century, we really look at the psychology of people as well,
right.
which is probably not in the story, but okay, Lorraine and then Pamela.
I was gonna say that this Parsha is equal parts disturbing and fascinating to me. I was looking forward to this session to learn from you because I have a different religious background. I'm Jewish now, but in my background, as a child, God was always seen as all compassionate, all merciful, and all of these characteristics that I'm learning about God through the text make me struggle with this idea of God and make me wonder if this is what it means that we were created to the image of God with all the different spectrum of characteristics where we experience anger, where we can be unfair, but we can be not merciful, or we can be loving and kind, and we can be all of those different things. So I don't know if you have other midrash that you can send my way that I can learn more about this, or maybe inform myself more, maybe expand on that. But this was a very a bit of substantive for me to process this Parsha.
I agree, and I'll call on Pamela in a second. First of all, you should not, according to the Maimonides, who was in the 1200s, and since then, you don't take anything literally. He says everything is metaphor. They shouldn't take anything literally. Second of all, there's a midrash that before God created the world, he already created teshuvah. He already created repentance and repair, because human beings are created, unlike angels, with the capacity to make a choice of which way they want to go. Mm-hmm. And it seems like God already knew that we would mess up, because that's Yom Kippur. That's the ability, as opposed to, we're not born as sinners, we're not bad, but we will mess up because we're human, and only angels are perfect. And that the point of, we come with a pure soul, but our soul needs to be refined. We need to connect with our soul. And my Shabbat message, I'm giving you, you don't even have to read it, is about that the Kabbalah says that we are actually born with two souls, an animalistic soul and a holy soul, a higher soul, and that they battle for us, within us, for how we're going to behave. And we need to envision this battle. And when our instinct is to do the wrong thing, to understand that the dark side, or the Sitra Achra, as it's called in the Kabbalah, is trying to influence us, and we have choice. The goal is to bring light and goodness into the world, but we have to choose it. That's what makes us human, as opposed to perfect. And if we make the wrong choice, there's compassion and understanding and forgiveness to try again, as long as you repair and try again. So this story, as I said, if you see it as a metaphor, is that they went so far that they were swallowed up, and and then there's another midrash that says that their children they didn't die. They went to Sheol, which was it was this concept of this darker underworld. And according to the midrash, his children came out and repented and were actually heroes, because Judaism doesn't want to think that. Mm. But it's disturbing, but it's a story. Don't take it literally. It's a story about bad people who were punished, just like an ancient story, and our rabbis have scrambled to find the proper meaning in it. Okay, Pamela.
So sort of along those similar lines, I feel like this week, and I watched and record last week, that I feel like these are all sort of life lessons, right? They could be written in some self-help book, in the 21st century, because if you if you, your own demons, if you will eat you alive. And so I look at this, and also from last week where they were not wanting to go into Israel, into the land of milk and honey, because they're fears. And so if you don't have the courage in life to step outside your comfort zone, then you don't get the benefit and the beauty of what that might bring. You don't get that experience, right? So in the same way for this, if you don't, you have to, oh, I had a thought. That was my original thought. I've forgotten it now. But that's my feeling on the whole thing. It's sort of one of those life lessons where, it's about you taking the step and having the courage and really, I've forgotten it. But in any case, that's the main thing, is that it's just sort of a life lesson of what if you take the leap, if you move forward, then you get the benefit. Oh, I know, your expectations. So when they arrived, this all started with expectations. So they were sort of said, oh, I was going to expect that we were going to have this like easy life. I'm going to be on easy street now. But then they got, by the way, the manna from heaven, and they weren't satisfied with it. They didn't have to work for it. Then, so I think it's also a life lesson in the sense that life doesn't always show up as you expect, right? Like, yeah, you have good things, but it doesn't mean that you don't have to work for them. Oh, you got that great job, but it turns out you're going to have to work really hard at that great job. So it'll be all those things that you had expected, but maybe some of these things you're going to have to work for them as well. And to me, if you look at these as life lessons, this is the psychological part of it. Not necessarily like hellfire and brimstone part, but maybe it's the psychological part of the Torah where it's like life doesn't always show up the way you expect it to. Maybe you've got to do a little bit of work to make it into exactly what you want it to be. So that was my thought, was that sort of psychology of it, applying our 21st century ethos.
I love that. I think, yes, I love that. And it's also like, you will bring down your family and your household with you. You'll bring them down. You'll all be swallowed into this psychological pit, this psychological darkness, not necessarily that the earth is going to swallow you up, but I just keep thinking, and we keep learning more and more about that insurrection on January 6th and the people and what they were, how crazy they were. They were going to hang the vice president. They were looking to kill people. They did kill people. They were all in the name of freedom, all in the name of, what they thought was justice. So
they were patriots.
Patriots. Exactly.
They're going to kill the vice president of the United States because they're patriots. What?
Exactly. And so
Congress.
What did somebody say something?
Yeah, I said kill the vice president, but also maim the senators and congressmen, the Democrats.
Exactly. So if we look at, this group kind of like that, and that they didn't succeed because psychologically, then a lot of them have actually said, I don't even know what I was thinking. They actually, some of them were like, I thought I was doing something, the right thing, but I now they're arrested and they have to face it and whatever. So if we take this as a metaphor for, these people, they believed all of this fake stuff. They were swallowed or devoured by their own ambitions, their own darkness, their own inner darkness, exactly like Pam said. And the fire that consumed them, it's psychological distortion, or it's mental, craziness, or it's mass, what is that called? Mass hysteria, or like when the group.
There's a ton of studies. There's a ton of studies about the group think, like when you get a mass of people together and how it creates this sort of bizarre psychological effect. Like they've done a lot of studies about it. I think it's fascinating.
And people will do things that they would never do alone in a group. And that was a Nazi thing as well, for
Right.
this mass hysteria where you would kill people and hurt people in a group that you would never do one-on-one. You would never do it, but suddenly everybody's doing it and you're caught up in the whatever. I mean, so
Mhm.
Caught up in the hysteria of it
the
all.
hysteria of it. So they're gone, and then, but I love that, you know, so they're gone, and then God says, this is so interesting, and Lorraine, I'm curious what you think about this. Tell Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, to pick up the fire pans out of the blaze, for they are holy, and scatter the fire some distance away, and the fire pans of these men who sinned against their own souls. So I love that. They sinned against their own souls. So again, we can think of this as a psychological or emotional kind of self-destruction or destruction. Let them be made into hammered plates as a covering for the altar, because they presented them before the Lord, therefore they are holy and be assigned to Israel. So they took all of their fire pans and they made them this, they attached them to the altar like a design. And you would look at that, which is a pretty powerful image to remember how you can be consumed by your own darkness. Is basically what the altar is, the way that you give thanks to God and gratitude, or you atone. You go there when you've done something wrong, you give a sin offering. And now when you get to that altar, it's covered by all these fire pans of these people who never atoned and who were destroyed. It's a very powerful Parsha. And there's more to it, but about then Moses, there's something kind of beautiful. Moses says, have every leader of each tribe put their staff in the ground. And the next day, Aaron's staff sprouts with flowers and greenery, a little tree. And that's how he says, we know Aaron is the high priest, but there's this rebirth, this image of rebirth. Let's start over now. Let's be reborn. Here's the flowers. Let's go in peace. Let's accept that Aaron is the one who is the best. And, you know, they loved Aaron. When he died, they mourned for a month for Aaron. They cried and cried. Aaron speak, you know, there's something beloved about Aaron. And Moses is saying he's the right one to intercede with God for you. That's what the high priest does. He intercedes on Yom Kippur for all our sins. He goes into the Holy of Holies. He's the right one. He's full of flowers. Aaron is the one with the goodness, with the nurturing quality, more than me. Moses isn't the high priest, it's Aaron. Why isn't Moses the high priest? Obviously, Aaron has special qualities, and I think that this budding staff is a metaphor for Aaron and Aaron's soul and Aaron's abilities. So on that note, let's take the budding staff as the ending of this study. You could study one Parsha for, months, weeks, or whatever. I hope, Lorraine, that helped you a little bit. But, go ahead.
I was going to say thank you. I mean, this is just, that's why I like to come to Torah every week, because it just gains so much from your thoughts. And thank you for sharing your thoughts about this.
Okay, well, I wish you all Shabbat Shalom. I don't know if any of you are going to services tonight in person. It's our first in-person service. I'm going to be there. And probably within a couple weeks, this week it's only 50. You had a pre-sign up. I think within a week or two, it's going to be open and it's going to be unlimited attendance. So I hope you'll start coming to services, because it's so great to be in person.
I need to get to LA to do it.
Oh yeah, I know that. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Have a beautiful
Shabbat Shalom.
day.
Thank you.
Shabbat
This
Shalom.
was amazing.
Thank you. It's really wonderful.